What's cracking, big dogs? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the headquarters. This is Big Dogs Gotta Eat Fantasy Football. You might be watching this on the Bunkbed Breakdowns YouTube channel or listening via the podcast. If you're not already subscribed to both of those, both the visual version and the audio getting kicked into your ear, make sure you do that. Those will be linked in the description. First thing in the comments as well. They're putting out a ton of Dynasty content on their own outside of the Big Dogs main channel that you are on right now. Today, we're talking about general draft strategy because everyone's redraft leagues are happening right now. You might have already drafted, but a lot of people are drafting this weekend or in the days coming up. So we want to talk about general strategy, just literally look at round by round, guys we like, positions that we're going to be attacking, and what spots in the draft we're going to be attacking. I don't know who the fuck started the trend in this industry that, like, you don't win your league in drafts and, like, you win it on the waiver wire. But, like, I don't understand, was Christian McCaffrey available on the waiver wire last year? Was Lamar Jackson available? Like, I don't understand where that theory came from because it's just an outrageous thing to say. And there are good waiver wire pickups, but they're not what win you your league. So I think drafting soundly and strategically and understand what you're doing from a game theory standpoint is extremely important. And that is what we are going to get into today. All the trends that we have watched and seen over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months since we've been putting out content on the channel is coming to fruition in this beautiful cocktail today.
Dude, I remember I put out that tweet like a while ago where I said like redraft leagues are won and lost in the draft, and then dynasty leagues are lost in the draft but won via trade. And everyone's like, I can't agree. The waiver wire is so important. Like, you got to. It's like, dude, that's like saying like because LeBron didn't score the last point in the final seconds, his like prior 50 points didn't fucking matter. Like that's like
everyone would immediately just go to like the one waiver wire ad that was good in the playoffs one time. I'm like, okay, who was the best waiver wire pickup of last year? Was it like Terry McLaurin? Like, he didn't win you your
Brian Hill, Ty Johnson. We thought they'd be good.
Yeah, exactly. Yo, Mike, just make sure your mic is turned up a little bit.
I turned it up. Is it still good?
Yeah, now you're fucking booming, baby.
Oh, okay, nice. All right, I turned it up.
We get the mic booming.
Let me turn mine up a little bit. All right, how's it now?
Hey, Noah.
Yeah.
Hit the intro.
Fuck.
Okay, so I think the best way to look at the general strategy or like how you're going to attack a draft is very specific to where you're drafting this year. I think the hardest spot to draft from this year is the very early spots. Like the 1, 2, 3 is usually the best. Like, you always want one of those elite running backs, and that seems to be the strategy year in, year out. This year it gets really difficult because we've seen this whole herd mentality of going over to the double running back thing, right? Like, we want to start off with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Josh Jacobs or Miles Sanders and Nick Chubb or something like that. If you're shooting from the 1, 2, 3 spot, you don't have a chance at that in the back end of the second round. And what makes it difficult is the second tier running backs are off the board, the second tier wide receivers are off the board. So you're left, reaching for, if we're talking about one quarterback league, you're set reaching for Lamar Jackson, or you're set reaching for Chris Godwin or a tight end or something like that. I'm like curious what your guys' thoughts are, because I've probably come around to where I've settled on. And even in super flex leagues, like those quarterbacks don't drop. You have the top 6 guys, and sometimes, Deshaun Watson or Kyler or whoever will drop to the 211, 212. But it's a tricky spot to draft them. So what are you guys looking at in the first couple rounds if you're drafting early on?
So I mean, you're getting one of Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, like Alvin Kamara, Zeke. I also like Cook and Alera, but that's more towards the middle. I actually don't mind it drafting from early, especially if you're in a super flex league, because I think generally speaking, at least for super flex, for me, I like to wait on quarterback, because like one of the most appealing things about quarterbacks in Superflex Dynasty is like its longevity. Like, they last forever. Like, you don't have to trade them. Blah blah blah. I don't really like that, but like that's what people think, right? But like that doesn't really come into question at all in redraft leagues. And then some of those older guys, which you like would obviously fade in Dynasty, you can draft in redraft, because like, again, there's no long-term implications. You got like Drew Brees, you got the Ben Roethlisbergers, you got the Tom Brady's. Like, these guys can still produce and put up for you. So I tend to just fade quarterback. So like, if you're drafting from the 101, you're probably still not getting a running back. But what you can get is a couple of like bang up like stud wide receivers. So you can go like CMC, Like I've seen like, Julio fall. I've seen like Adams fall sometimes. But even if not them, you could get like a Godwin, right? You can get like CMC, Godwin plus like Mike Evans, right? Or CMC, Godwin plus A-Rob. Like I think that's a pretty legit opening, especially if you're playing like 3 wide receiver league. So I think you still have an advantage drafting from early, because what happens is now you can get guys like DeAndre Swift. You can get guys like Cam Akers, and you maybe have to reach a little bit with your 501, but that's like totally okay, because I think those guys will return value. So that's why I'm kind of okay drafting from early still, versus drafting from the back part.
Yeah, I'm right there with Mike, because when you think about it, and I got some DMs like this past weekend, it's like, bro, I have a chance I can be the 108, the 112, or the 101. What should I do? I don't want to be the 101 because I don't get 2 good running backs. The thing is, Christian McCaffrey is like 2 good running backs in one. Like you look what we put up last year, it's like 26 a game. You look at Joe Mixon plus Nick Chubb, it's like 28 a game when those two are combined. And I'm not saying it's going to be a carbon copy of last year, but when you get Christian McCaffrey giving you 20 to 25 points a game, probably the same with Saquon Barkley. Like Mike said, you can just go with Christian McCaffrey or Barkley at 101, 102. The way back, you can get like a D-Hop and Chris Godwin stack, or like a Chris Godwin, Kenny Galladay stack. And in the 5th or 6th rounds or whatever, you can get a Cam Akers, you can get a DeAndre Swift. And at that point, when you have McCaffrey or Barkley as your running back 1, your running back 2 doesn't have to be as good as Nick Chubb to make up the ground for not selecting one in the 2nd round. And those wide receivers in turn will give you a safer floor week to week, because you're not waiting till the 5th or 6th to get one. So in Superflex leagues as well, as Mike was saying, I do like to wait on the quarterback too, because you can still get a Ryan Tannehill, a Gardner Minshew pretty later on. Those are 2 guys that we were targeting in our value type of videos, and players that you should be targeting because they're going a little bit later than what most people expect, because what they add on the ground and through the air. So I don't mind too much waiting on the quarterback position. And then if you're really feeling frisky, just like go for a Tyrod Taylor late. I know he's probably one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, so you might not be able to wait too long on him, but even him, or like a Ryan Fitzpatrick pretty late is your quarterback 3. If you have those other 2 guys, all you need is a 3rd player for a bye week or an injury. And I think if you wait long enough, like those are pretty decent options for you.
Yeah, I think the Tyrod call is good, because if you get C-Mac fade the running backs for the rest of the draft, then you get your RB2 with Tyrod. And
how much longer do you think that's going to be?
What's that?
I'm ready to go right now.
Please do us a fucking favor. So I admittedly, I haven't done many mock drafts. I don't know why, but I haven't done many mock draft Superflex, because we've been drafting on Underdog like nonstop, and that's all 1 quarterback leagues. And the 2 drafts that I've done for redraft so far that were paid were both 1 quarterback leagues as well. So I guess my mind hasn't really tuned into the fact that like you can get much better value at the. I've even seen in some Superflex mocks like a Tyreek Hill will fall to like the 2.9 or 2.10, and in that case that's like an amazing fucking turnout for you, Mike. Yeah,
I mean, right now, if you just look at it, Julio Jones' ADP is 20th overall at wide receiver 4. So if you slot in a Lamar Jackson, a Patrick Mahomes ahead of him, he's pushing back to the 2nd round, right? So, and Julio is like, to me, is like a pretty smash pick in the 2nd round. I mean, Dirk Coder's back. Like, they're going to throw a shitload. And I think he's playing 11 games in the fucking dome this year. So, Matt Ryan's going to smash. And like, look, I get the Calvin Ridley hype, and like everyone's like, holy shit, Calvin Ridley's going to get all the targets. Austin Hooper left, Muhammad Sanu left. But like, what about Julio, man? Like Julio could realistically, challenge for top spot in targets this year as well.
Yeah, I think you made a good point with the quarterbacks as well. Like, what's funny about the difference in Superflex to 1 quarterback leagues this year, and I've noticed it at such a big disparity, is those 2nd-tier quarterbacks, the Daks and the Kylers, they go like 5 to 6 picks behind whoever the last of the first 2 guys is. But in 1 quarterback leagues, they go like 5 or 6 rounds later.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's value to be had in 1 quarterback leagues because of that disparity. Yeah. And I'm very much on the quantity over quality bandwagon when it comes to redraft Superflex, as long as like quality has some kind of cutoff there. Like, obviously you don't want to be like double stacking Nick Foles, Mitch Trubisky. No, you waiting for me to say it?
I actually muted my.
I saw his shit just like clench up, and he was waiting for me to throw down the Chargers. Fucking beef, baby. No, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm very much a get a 3 quality guys that are like quarterback 10 to 18.
Yeah.
The mid tier, the mid to low tier of the mid tier of quarterbacks. So I'm loading up the skill positions in the first few rounds. So yeah, I've come around to the fact that, like, you know what? End of the 2nd round, you're not really going to have a choice of trying to grab value from anyone. You're going to be out of the running for the 2nd tier of running backs and wide receivers. Just get the guy you like. Like, fuck ADP at that point. Just get the best receivers you like. I find myself grabbing Godwin at like the 210, 211 often if I have that spot. I find myself grabbing even Allen Robinson at like the 3-2 if I'm sitting there, or if Travis Kelce or George Kittle or something at the 3-1, 3-2. So I mean, you just kind of have to make the best of it and run with it there.
Yeah, like when you're picking from the ends, like you can't be worried about capturing value. That's not how you play the ends. You like if you're doing that, you're just waiting and you're gonna miss a tier every single time. So you're gonna have to reach sometimes, and that's totally fine because like you have CMC and like the whole point of picking from the front end is maybe you can even start some of those runs yourself and try and get the value on the back end. But when you're picking from the ends, you can't be too concerned about getting value. I just want to go back to that point that you made for 1 QB leagues, and it's so true this year. You have this in these best ball leagues that I'm doing. Like I'm in like 140 right now, but there's a tier of Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, and Dak Prescott, and they're consistently going. Like anytime they're there in the 7th round, I'm hitting the draft button because you want it. People say like fade quarterback, but here's the thing: like Deshaun Watson's going to score you higher points above replacement than whatever shitty wide receiver or running back you're picking there. So like even more true in redraft leagues where it's super flex, where you don't have the luxury of like, not super flex, or super single QB. Like those guys are going to give you the advantage you need. Like Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott. Like you said, right? Like 5-round discount to Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. I'm not so sure Deshaun Watson doesn't finish the QB1 this year. I'm not so sure that Dak Prescott doesn't challenge that.
All of them have the ceiling that the top, like, listen, Patrick Mahomes could throw for 5,000 yards, but like Dak also just almost literally threw for 5,000 yards. Yeah. So, like in a passing floor ceiling, no one's going to have the rushing kind of thing that Lamar Jackson has going on. Yeah. But these guys are not like the normal tier 2 quarterbacks. Like these are not the Matt Ryans and the Josh Allens and the Carson Wentz. These guys are also elite, but it just so happens Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are so fucking elite that you don't look at them in the same sense. So yeah, Deshaun Watson, I'm not as high on as you are, but for some reason, because he falls to the end of the 7th every time, he's my second most owned quarterback in the underdog best ball draft because there's too much value to not be had there.
Yeah, and just looking at their ADP, they're going from pick 64 to 75. We have Dak Prescott at 64, Kyler at 72, Deshaun Watson at 74, Russell Wilson at 75. And then the players around them, like Ronald Jones. Nick, I know you like him, but he obviously has question marks. T.Y. Hilton, is that guy still like healthy? Will Fuller, same thing. Marquise Brown, Julian Edelman we like, but like Tariq Cohen, AJ Green, James White, all these guys are not going to be running back ones or wide receiver ones at their respective positions. Whereas Dak Prescott, Kyler, Deshaun, and Russell Wilson, as you guys said, have very safe floors because of their legs, but also have extremely high ceilings because we know that they have arm talent as well.
Yeah, if one of those top 2 quarterbacks like doesn't win MVP, it's going to be someone in that range of those 4 quarterbacks. So I'm just like, yeah, we like to fade quarterback, but also when you have an option that juicy, like smash the button on that. So let's talk about, I guess, I almost think like the middle draft picks and the end of the round draft picks are kind of identical this year. My strategy is likely double tapping on the running backs if I'm anywhere from pick like 6 through 12. I particularly like where are your guys' favorite spot to draft from? If you're in a 12-team league and they give you the option to draft from, where are you choosing?
101.
I like that as well. I think the cutoff for me is around 106 because I want one of those top 6 running backs. Yeah. Once you get to like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I do like his talent a lot and I like his situation, but I still feel like there's a lot of question marks. I think the top 6 guys, because I'm not going to draft Michael Thomas, I think those top 6 guys all have as little question marks as possible. I guess Dalvin Cook with his health and his holdout concerns, there's some worry to be had there, but I just think CMC, Saquon, Zeke, Kamara, Cook, and Henry, if you can start that way, and then I guess if you're at the 106, you have a chance at like an Aaron Jones or Nick Chubb, and then a wide receiver thereafter. But I just think that they're super safe in terms of production, and you get an elite player at a very thin position.
Yeah, if I had to choose, I just chose actually. Like I had like home keeper league that I drafted for this past weekend, and I chose the 106. And part of that is because I traded away my 3rd-round picks. I didn't want to take like a 102 and then fucking fuck myself on the way back on a late 4th. So like I chose 106 because I have like 6 running backs, and it's CMC, Barkley, Zeke, Kamara, Cook, and CH, and I want to get one of those guys. And when you're in the middle, there's a chance that you have some idiots in your league that like to hit on Austin Eckler, and he somehow makes it back to you in the middle. And especially if you're in Superflex, so you're going to have Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes going there because right now he's going at 16th overall. So if you push him to 18th overall with Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, like if you get a CEH or like Dalvin Cook plus Eckler open, I think that's the nuts, and that's what I've been getting in a couple of best balls.
Dude, so on Yahoo, they have their pro leagues on Yahoo, right? So you could join them and you're just playing with random people, but you could do buy-ins of 20, 50, 100, 250, 500, and 1,000. And I've done 2 separate 250 buy-ins. They're only 10-team leagues, so it's you versus 9 other people. In the drafts, I got the 101 in one of my drafts, and I got C-Mac, Austin Eckler fell to me at the last pick of the second round, and then Travis Kelce also fell to me in the third round. So C-Mac, Eckler, Kelce. So for real, if people are trying to get into like last minute drafts and want to pay and take advantage of some ADPs, I remember my 6-7 stack was like, it was like Tyler Lockett and Tyler Boyd or some shit like that. It was like ridiculous players were falling to you. So the team ended up being stacked. Austin Eckler fell to like the 26th spot in the next draft I was in. I almost got Sanders with my third round pick. So like if anyone's looking for other fucking drafts to join in, do that. And I guess I agree with you that the middle rounds, great, because you get that really, really solid RB1 and still have a chance. I still feel like I think I would probably take the 109, 110. I don't see a massive drop off between CEH and guys like Josh Jacobs or Miles Sanders, and then give me the higher likelihood of getting another running back like a Kenyon Drake or, you know, a Miles Sanders or Josh Jacobs on the way back and solidify me at the RB spot and then smash wide receivers rounds 3, 4, 5. So my ideal spot would be the end of the round, but I'm probably taking the same strategy as I would in the middle rounds. I'm looking to grab my RB1 and then see, I guess, what falls to me back at the RB2 spot. But if you're sitting there in the middle of the round, in the second round, after you go, you know, you pick the 5, 6, 7 slot, like, is there any way that you're looking at a Travis Kelce or a George Kittle? Because in my opinion, like, I don't know, you could throw all the value over replacement arguments or whatever the fuck you want to do with me. I'm just not going to hit the fucking button on him. I'm just not going to do it.
I can't do it, and the reason why I can't do it is because Zach Ertz is going to be there in like the fourth, or like even sometimes
Andrew's there in the fourth, Zach Ertz in the fifth. Like
and then if I miss on them, I'm like, it's redraft, right? It's redraft where you can stream tight ends. So if I miss on them, I'll just stream. So I think that's kind of my approach. The only time I've ever taken a tight end like Kittle or Kelce, like in the New York league, is when these fall into like the third or like potentially the fourth. Like when there's actual value, I'm probably not going to take them at value just because like you can stream and you can fire like late round darts, and that just like totally changes it.
I think that's a good point. Like if you're taking one of those guys, you have to make sure that you're getting it at a value. Like don't take him with the idea that like he's going to be your league winner. Only take him if you're like, holy shit, he fell to me all the way. You know, if you're at like the 206, that's not a spot where you're like, oh my God, he fell to me all the way here. If you're at the 306, you're like, okay, he shouldn't still be on the fucking board. So I think that's the way you should look at it.
Yeah, I feel the same way about tight ends, and almost similarly, I feel the same way about Michael Thomas. Like I don't see in the first round. It sounds stupid. Like I'd much rather have almost like 10 running backs above Michael Thomas just because wide receiver is so deep. And of course, he's probably going to be a top 2 or 3 option and put up like 1,600 yards and 10 touchdowns. But when you look at like, I know it's a far cry from what his production is going to be, but like a Tyler Boyd, as you were saying, like you got him at the 7th round, or like even a Julian Edelman. Obviously, they're not going to put up as lofty of numbers, but when you can get that in the 6th or 7th round, as opposed to burning a first-round pick on Michael Thomas, when instead you can get a CEH, a Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, I just realistically don't see myself pulling the trigger on him at all.
Yeah, I mean, like I can't do it either. I'm like you. I have like I'll take like Derrick Henry, I'll take Miles Sanders, I'll take Kenyon Drake. I mean, honestly, if push came to shove, if I knew I could not get Eckler in the second round, I would take Eckler ahead of Michael Thomas, and I would not feel bad about it at all.
So the video that I'm putting out tomorrow, well, for the people watching right now, is the one that went out Monday. It was my top 50 rankings. I kind of just like went through them and looked at which ones I'm higher, ADP, ECR. And like I had Michael Thomas ranked like 10 or 11 overall. And I was like, yeah, Michael Thomas is in the first round, just like purely out of respect, but I'm not taking him there. You know what I mean? Like that was like the only analysis I can give to it, because I'm the same way with you guys. Like I'm not taking Michael Thomas with my first round pick just because this year more than ever, I don't know if maybe it's just the fact that like people are getting sharper and like I'm getting better as a fantasy player, or it's just this year in particular. But like the game theory for this year is just so sound to fade wide receivers, because it is. And I brought this up before. I'm sure by the end of next summer or by the beginning of next summer when we start analysis again, it's going to be like, oh, well, things swung back to the median in the market, right? Like we had 25 wide receivers go for over 1,000 receiving yards last year. So to us, it triggers this thing like, oh, it's so deep in the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 pool. That was the highest number of 1,000-yard receiving seasons, you know, in one single season over the last like 25 years. So that's not going to happen again. So next year, are we like, it's really not that deep? You know, it's like the 2016 zero RB phase and like shit like that. You know, it always swings to one side of the spectrum. And then by the next year, we look at things differently. So I'm wondering, like, do we continue seeing this trend where it's like we want running backs early and often? Is it, you know, do you think it's like a product of just having so many workhorses in the league right now? Do you think that the wide receiver 2, 3 pool is actually this deep, or is it just a phase of what happened last year?
Yeah, I think I don't think we're gonna have that many again, but I think wide receiver, like over combined these like 2 to 3 years, is still gonna be way deeper than compared to like 10 years ago because you just don't have target hog like wide receivers anymore, and the reason why is because teams like spread it out. Like the
Yeah.
offensive philosophy has changed, so like it's really hard to compare today versus like 10 years ago because even like via the draft, like I honestly think that Jonathan Taylor, had he been drafted 10 years ago, he would have been a top 5 pick. That's like my honest truth. But like the game has like changed so much. Like the offenses have shifted so much. Like you have like legitimate wide receiver too. The talent coming in at wide receiver is just like insane. Like CeeDee Lamb is joining an offense, and like you could make the argument that he's like the third in targets. I'm not making the argument, but I'm saying that you can because you have
Yeah.
Gallup and you have Cooper, right? So I think there will be some regression, but I don't think we'll ever regress to the point that it was before, where you have like these massive like Antonio Brown, like Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, like all of them all at the top. I just think that like I think that the ball is going to get spread out more, just like how there's a decrease in like true bell cows running backs. You're going to see like that decrease in wide receiver target hogs kind of hold.
I want to stop you right there. We talked about the balls getting spread around. You know whose balls are about to get spread around post-COVID? Y'all, because we've got a special. I shouldn't do the kiss thing when I'm talking about shaving man's balls. But listen,
I'm
we're
zooming
working
in
with
on that part.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Listen. COVID's about to be done. Not really. We probably got another couple of years, but things are starting to open up again, which means we get to go out. We get to meet people. We get to have women catch more balls than Julio Jones catches, all right? And when we put ourselves in that situation, we want to make sure we are ready. And there is nothing more equipped to have you ready than Manscaped's Lawnmower 3.0. They got this beautiful kit. I'm just going to keep this in the background. Your balls will thank you. I can't really put it any better than this, than the package says right here. They've got this kit that comes with ball toner, ball deodorant, the lawnmower, which comes with a flashlight. Now, I was thinking about doing something where I shaved my face like on camera to show you how good it was, but I shaved my balls with this in the shower the other day. Low key, the best part about this thing is that it's waterproof, water resistant. So you shave in the shower and you don't got to worry about breaking it, 2 days, 3 days at a time. Rip it up, shave it up, go out there, let somebody catch your balls. All right. That is my proposition to you. Get in your shower, shave your balls, go look good now that we're out congregating with other people. If you go to manscaped.com and you use the promo code BDGE, you're getting 20% off your lawnmower and you're getting free shipping. What do we think?
Dude, I mean, I've been using that shit for a while, so definitely you gotta shave your balls, man. I mean, if nothing else, like for your lady, for yourself, just have some self-respect, man. Don't be walking around there with a bush like it's 1980s. Like, we don't need that.
Noah, have you shaved any part of your body over the last 6 months?
Can you tell?
Yeah, I mean, I see a little bit of beard action going on over there.
Yeah,
the other thing with this too, I don't typically shave my balls, but the lawnmower is like very anti scratch resistant. I don't know what the right word is for it.
Chafing.
Not chafing, but like it doesn't cut you up. Like you
you up
extremely close to your hair and it doesn't cut you up. Whereas like any other buzzer it's really, really risky fucking business.
It'll rip your some other shavers, man, it'll rip your fucking pubes off. Like it's happened before and that shit hurts. So
before you know it, your fucking nutsack is looking like it just got chopped up by a machine. So grab the lawnmower again, manscaped.com. BDGE, the promo code, 20% off plus free shipping. All right, let's get back to catching real balls, footballs. What were we talking about?
Yeah, we were in round two. Round two, I think. I mean, look, I think like, yeah, we're talking about like the wide receivers, right? And like the reason why we tell you to fade wide receivers early, and like the thing is like it's gonna get to a point where like people are gonna push that like way too far. Where like if you're in a league, right, and you're sitting there at the second round and like basically people have taken like Aaron Jones and like Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, James Conner. I've seen James Conner go in the second round, and you're looking at like a plethora of like elite wide receivers. Like you have to like click the button then. So like it's all like I kind of tweeted this before. Like people always like talk about like promote their stuff like, oh, like this guy won like high stakes championships. This guy won expert leagues. Like, yo, newsflash, most people aren't playing with fucking experts or playing high stakes leagues or playing in home leagues. So like implementing some like fancy zero RB strategy is fucking dumb because like people aren't drafting like how experts draft. So you really got to just feel out your draft. And like sometimes like when I was doing my most recent like home league, like playing vanilla, just taking like good value that falls to you, like it works. Like it just works, and you end up with like a pretty fucking slick team. Most home leagues, like I'm sure some of the ones that you guys are playing in, like they don't even like aren't that aware of rookies. So that's why you can get guys like DeAndre Swift and Cam Akers in like the 5th and 6th round. Whereas like realistically speaking, they should be going in like the 4th. So like I just like always try and play like the value that falls to me. But like in the 1st round, like you kind of just have to hit the cop button on the running back. 2nd round is where you can kind of get more flexible.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I feel like there's such a steep drop off once you get to that James Conner range, because at that point, people that don't have their second running back want to push the button on a James Conner or a Chris Carson who has injury concerns, or a Todd Gurley who just has every concern in the world about him. And instead, if you already have your running back or you have 2 running backs, you can push the button on an Amari Cooper or a DJ Moore, or Juju Smith-Schuster, or an Adam Thielen, all guys who have legitimate top 5 wide receiver upside. Whereas the running backs I just mentioned, like I don't think they have top 5 upside overall, just because they have so many concerns about them. And I think in a perfect world, like a guy like Todd Gurley, he's going to top out at like the RB10 as he did last year, because he just fell his way into 14 touchdowns, was terribly inefficient, and is now in an offense that doesn't like to run the ball as much as LA did.
Yeah, I think one of like the key things to get right this season Mike talked about was those rookie running backs. I think they're going to be like the deciding factor for a lot of leagues this year, because we have people going so crazy for the running back position, and now we have that jump up to where people are like, oh dude, there's nothing left on the board, do I still go running back if I'm at the 211 and it's just like Fournette or Chris Carson? I'm like, listen, like the reason that you have the strategy there that it's so popular is because we know which players that usually fall there. So it's like the strategy is based on the players that are available to us this year that we know about. And now it gets tricky when you have these rookies thrown into place that we're not really sure about their role, but they're super exciting. They're like these prospects that we haven't seen a group of like upper echelon talent like this, I think, come out in a long time, that we're all like universally excited about. The top 5 guys are all in interesting spots. So in terms of the rookie running backs, like we've talked about this a little bit on the show, but from like a strategy standpoint, are you looking to target a certain rookie? Are you looking to target a certain number of them? Because I said this before, like with J.K. Dobbins, he's someone that I'll probably only target if I miss out on all of the other rookie running backs, because I don't want a guy sitting on my bench for a long time. But I do think 1 or 2 of these guys is going to hit, and they're going to hit in a big fucking way.
Yeah, I'm not like going all out on rookie running backs. I mean, the only time I have done that is when I was forced to go like 0 RB in some of the best ball drafts, where I'll just double click on Akers and Swift.
Yeah.
But outside of that, what I'll usually do, especially when I'm picking from like early on, like the CMC Barkley range, it's harder to get Swift on those unless you want to reach, like you said, like I said, in the 5th round at 501. But if you don't want to do that, and you want to get like wide receivers or quarterbacks there, what you can do is get J.K. Dobbins on like the way back. So that's kind of where I've been getting J.K. Dobbins a lot of. And I think like you said, you have to have a balance, right? Because not all of these guys are going to step on the field and have a role right away. Like I think the ones that will is someone like Cam Akers, 1, because he's healthy, 2, Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown are kind of jags, and also Darrell Henderson is hurt. So
yeah,
I think he's going to have a lot of opportunity. He's someone where like I would feel like pretty comfortable like slotting into my like flex or like RB2. He might not put up like great numbers to start, but he's not going to like sink your week because he's going to get a lot of touches. So that's one where I feel like is a decent value. And if Swift wasn't injured, like if he wasn't hurt at all, I'd be like more comfortable slotting him in week 1. But you've heard the camp reports now where like, he's missing time, and you got like Matt Patricia, who's a freaking idiot. So,
I'm nervous about Swift. The injury is definitely making me nervous about him.
Yeah, so you kind of got to be prepared to like not have him there for like the first few weeks, not few weeks, like first like 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks. So I think that's how you got to plan for it, and like
not few weeks, just 2 to 3 to 4.
Yeah,
That's a fucking definition of a few.
Dude, I thought a few was like 5+, but yeah, I didn't want to make it sound like half the season's gone, but a couple weeks to 3 weeks. But yeah, I think
like, aren't you like a math major?
Yeah, only on my diploma.
Only technically.
Yeah.
So the rookie running backs are an interesting case study for this year. I'm really excited I'm almost excited for the season to be done, just to see like all the shit we got wrong and right.
Yeah.
I'm expecting 100% hit rate from us.
Another year of Derrick Henry and Michael Thomas being faded. That's going to bite me right in the ass.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is if you look at the 3rd and 4th round, and people always say like this is the running back dead zone, and like you don't really know what that means. But if you just look at them, like that what's driving that ADP is people that are like, fuck, I did not get a running back in rounds 1 and 2. Because if you look at the names, it's like James Conner at 25th overall, so top of the 3rd round. Like, Chris Carson in the middle of the 3rd round.
Is
Todd
that crazy?
Gurley.
Is that fucking crazy that Connor's going at the 301?
That's I think it's I think that one's less crazy than like Carson and Gurley, because we've at least seen like James Conner's like top 5 upside. Because if you assume he stays healthy, then like cool. But like it's wild to me that Chris Carson's going in the middle of the 3rd, that Todd Gurley's going towards the end of the 3rd, and you got like Leonard Fournette there as well. And you got Melvin Gordon in the 4th, Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson in the 4th as well. I think like that's what's driving that is people that literally missed out on the top running backs. I'm like, wow, I cannot leave these rounds with 0 running backs and like head into like round 5 or 6 and just rely on rookies and dart throws. I think that's what's driving that.
Connor was like literally a 5th round pick like 3 weeks ago. And I don't like nothing changed in that backfield, right? Like maybe Mike Tomlin came out and was like, James Conner's our starter. And everyone was like, oh my fucking God.
I think because you've been hyping Anthony McFarland, they're like, oh fuck, he's the next Justice Hill. I think James Conner's the guy now.
Yeah, dude, maybe that was part of it too. But like, that's what I mean. It's like you get these guys that are pushed up, and we historically know that round, there are a lot of running backs in round 3 that do end up hitting, but like 4, 5, 6, those are the guys that end up getting pushed into 3, 4, 5 and become the actual dead zone for it. And that's why I'm so high on getting these running backs in rounds 1 and 2, and then pairing them with our RB3, 4 in the Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift, Ronald Jones, fucking mold. Somebody fucking help me out here. Struggling so hard.
I don't know what you're trying to say
for either. It was so bad. That might have been the worst blank I've had on film in my life.
Yeah. But I mean,
we got time left in this episode. I'm sure I'll top you.
You already fucking left. You quit. Get off the screen.
I quit like 2 minutes in when you started talking about fucking Justin Herbert and like Justin Jackson.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that whole like James Conner, Chris Carson, Todd Gurley, that's like the nostalgia range. People are just picking these guys because they missed out on the previous running backs. They're like, wow, Todd Gurley was like the RB1 in 2014. That's like
I like that. The nostalgia range.
Yeah, the nostalgia.
Patent that. Yeah, the nostalgia range. Love
it's
that.
so true.
I almost feel better about like taking Cam Akers at 53 over, I guess, like a Todd Gurley at 33. Not just ADP wise, but I feel like almost better about Cam Akers than Todd Gurley this year. It might sound crazy, but like once you get past that nostalgia range, which I just sent in the patent, it's pending right now. Shark Tank is taking a look at it. But I like the Cam Akers, Kareem Hunt, Mark Ingram, and even though DeAndre Swift is injured right now, I like that range a lot better than the guys we previously mentioned because number 1, they're old. Number 2, I know you guys love to hear it. Most of them are kind of fat. And number 3, none of them are efficient. So I don't expect any sort of production there. Why not just take a Calvin Ridley, Adam Thielen, A.J. Brown, Robert Woods, wait around, and then get yourself a Cam Akers?
Yeah. I think if you just look at the running backs versus the wide receivers in that range, I look at the wide receivers and I see like top end wide receiver 1 upside. Like Adam Thielen, if he finishes top 5, I would not be shocked.
That's exactly what I said in the video I filmed this morning too. Yeah. I was like, there's you look at him as a floor play, but like there's legitimate ceiling as well.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley, like that's getting a little bit hype. But if anything happens to Julio, like he's no smash. But even without Julio, I could see that tandem being wide receiver 1s. But like more importantly, like Robert Woods, we know Cooper Kupp has now sustained an ankle injury. If Robert Woods finishes wide receiver 5 overall, I would not be fucking shocked in the least. So you see the upside there versus the running backs. You just don't see it. And the only way to like trick your mind into thinking these guys have upside is like look back into a year that is like no longer like the most recent year. So guys like David Johnson, when he said he would go 1,000 for 1,000, we're still waiting for that shit. And it's not going to happen this year.
Yeah, Mike, he jumped out of that pool that one time. That was pretty
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure he said it again like a week ago.
He did. He still said he's still chasing that 1,000 season. And dude, good luck to you, man. Keep on chasing. I hope you do well, but I'm not betting on it. You got Le'Veon Bell. He's got fucking Gase back there, and you got beat reporters saying, Frank Gore looks better than Le'Veon Bell and all this shit.
Bro, the
reports for Le'Veon Bell have been out of control this summer. Like nothing good. I'm like, dude, how can anyone still even remotely think about drafting him inside the top like 5 rounds? It makes no fucking sense. So,
exactly.
Yeah, so I think running back early, and then I think the sweet spot comes back again in like the 6th, 7th round where you can get your RB3s and 4s, grab your wide receivers in the middle. Let's talk about quarterbacks a little bit for the Superflex, because we talked about how we're not really looking to target the top guys unless they probably fall to value, maybe like a 3rd round or something like that. But typically that's not going to happen. So of the guys that are like that quarterback 2 tier that I named, like the Matt Ryan, Josh Allen, Carson Wentz, I'm almost like they're not worth drafting because you can get guys that are statistically going to put up, how many fewer yards is Drew Brees or Tom Brady going to throw than Matt Ryan is? Probably like 100, right? And their touchdowns are probably going to be similar. So wait 2 rounds, grab one of those guys. So I'm looking to grab like the middle to low tier of the middle tier of quarterbacks, as my first quarterback in Superflex.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Is like, I'm hoping that I can get Tannehill as my QB2. That's like my goal of every draft. But if not, like Tannehill and Cousins pairing, I think is like probably my favorite in terms of like value, because when I just looked at the Vikings, like how their schedule is going to be, like they're facing really tough offenses. So that means that the opposing team's going to score a lot, but they are facing opponents with very low defensive efficiency. So like you're going to get shootouts, and I think you're going to get something more reminiscent of like Kirk Cousins 2018, I guess it was. So I think those are a couple of guys, and you got like Gardner Minshew as well. But I agree with you. Like I'm targeting the lower end of that tier and hopefully filling out my running backs and wide receivers up top. And then just like getting that like medium floor play on the QBs that some do have ceilings. It's like I think Ryan Tannehill has a ceiling, but mostly looking for the floor in Superflex.
Yeah, just looking at the ADP, a guy like even Matthew Stafford or Daniel Jones, they're going right after that or in that range of the nostalgia running backs, I guess, with Chris Carson, David Johnson, and then DeAndre Swift is going a little bit later. I'd much rather take a chance on one of those quarterbacks, have them as my QB1, wait a few rounds, as Mike was saying, get yourself a Tannehill, get yourself a Minshew, and then wait a round or two after that. And as your QB3, I'm fine with like a Derek Carr there. And then if you want to pick up like Tyrod Taylor or Ryan Fitzpatrick, as I said earlier, at like an extreme discount as a QB4 or QB3 if you miss out on Derek Carr, I think that's a good blend of floor and ceiling at the quarterback position, because a guy like Minshew or a guy like Tannehill gives you the rushing upside, whereas somebody like Matthew Stafford, he's going to throw for like 4,500 yards and 25 to 30 touchdowns if he's healthy, or Daniel Jones, who's going to give you something on the ground, turn the ball over a hell of a lot, but also have a lot of opportunities to make up for that with touchdowns and rushing upside. So that's how I would try to attack the quarterback position. And as you guys said earlier, it's like, I mean, Mahomes is really good. Lamar Jackson, I've heard he's pretty good too. But to me, it's super hard to pass up on the running back position early when you know you can get a quarterback like a Matthew Stafford, like a Daniel Jones, like a Drew Brees, like you said, a lot later. Whereas the running backs in that range they don't hold a candle to a Christian McCaffrey, a Saquon Barkley, and Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, the drop off is so big, and one of the terms I like to use, I talked about in the Bible this year, was the least viable starter. So the way I look at super flex leagues for redraft is like if you're looking at rankings for a 1 quarterback league, like what's the last guy in the ranking sheet that you're comfortable starting in your quarterback spot, right? It might be quarterback 16, it might be quarterback 18. So for Superflex, you should look at it the same way. That guy, if you're comfortable starting the 1 quarterback, you'd obviously be comfortable starting him in a Superflex. Just make sure you get one guy that's ranked above him, right? So if quarterback 18 is the last guy that you're comfortable in a 1 quarterback league, jump in and grab someone that's a spot above. It doesn't have to be the quarterback 5 and the quarterback 18. It could be the quarterback 14 and the quarterback 18 or something like that.
Yeah, one thing I will say though is in Superflex, like quarterback floor matters much more, whereas in single QB, floor doesn't matter at all. Like if I pick a Daniel Jones and he busts, like I just drop him, I grab someone else off the waiver wire. You're not going to be able to do that in Superflex, which is why like I prioritize safety a lot more. So like I'm actually like pretty wary about like Daniel Jones, because like you're not going to be able to really use him in the beginning of the year. His season is absolutely brutal. So like, from that sense, like I'm really looking for guys with safer floors. Why I really love like Tannehill. It's why I really like Kirk Cousins. I think they have like pretty safe floors with like decent enough ceilings to get you by. So I think that's the one distinction I'll make between single QB and.
No, that's a good point, because you don't have the luxury of, if someone who's risky ends up, assuming that risk and not being able to be a starter for your team, you can't go to the waiver wire because they're not available in Superflex leagues.
Yeah.
I was looking at the ADP again. Are you guys ever going to draft Aaron Rodgers? I'm looking at this guy. He's between Stafford and Daniel Jones. I know it's like a very niche subject. It's just one player, but I think he's just the Derrick Henry of quarterbacks for me, where I'm just never going to draft this guy. I feel like he's too rich for my blood, and he hasn't been good really since like 2017.
I'll draft Rodgers if this narrative is strong enough into the draft that like he actually falls to quarterback 15 or 16. Like he's someone within that viable range of starters for me in a Superflex. Not someone I'm targeting. But if I'm sitting there and I'm like, I need another quarterback, and it's literally like Aaron Rodgers, or it's, fucking like Derek Carr or Gardner Minshew, like I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers there. He's not that bad, and he's shown games where he has that ceiling still. And like maybe the pissed off narrative is real. Who knows? Aaron Rodgers is a piece of shit, and he's like he's very angry all the time. And I feel like sometimes, you know, you play angry, you might play well and put up big stats. So he's not like a necessarily completely off my fucking board. I don't think, but definitely not someone I'm targeting this year.
Yeah, he's QB 13, so I probably won't land any of them. And even by home league, like someone took him in like pretty early. So I think like the name brand is still pretty strong, especially in your traditional.
Man, I love my home league. He's been a second round pick for like the past 5 years. It's incredible.
The Packers made it so hard to draft Rodgers. Like it would have been great because they could have drafted or brought in like multiple free agents. They could have brought in a free agent and drafted a talented rookie wide receiver, and the narrative would still be the same. And that's when you would have liked to have drafted Rodgers. Like people would be like, "Oh, Rodgers is bad. He fell off. He's not like talented anymore." And then you would have been able to get him at quarterback 14 and been like, "Yeah, he's probably going to have a pretty good year." But they did. You're just relying on Devontae Adams to go absolutely fucking nuclear this year. And if that doesn't happen, then he doesn't have anyone to throw to.
I mean, even if Adams has like 200 targets, like 1,500 yards, and like 18 touchdowns, I'm still not sure like how much value Rodgers is gonna bring, because you're throwing to like Alan Lazard and like Marquez Valdez. Like what they could have done is they could have brought in Perriman, and he could have been like a wide receiver 2-3, and then they could have drafted someone. Like that's what I imagine happening.
Any deep threat, fucking deep. Like imagine they draft they took Brashad Perriman and then like got Laviska Shenault for the line of script. Like dude, that would have been fucking deadly for Rodgers.
Yeah, exactly. But they didn't, and now you have Alan Lazard and
now
Marquez Valdez Scantling. So
Nick, remember earlier in the show you said you can't wait for the season to end so we can see like what we were wrong about. Remember last year for like 5 months we were debating between MVS and Geronimo Allison, and both of them just fucking stunk.
Yeah, that was like one of the more popular arguments amongst fantasy football Twitter. It was so good, and it was so funny because no matter what side you were on, you were so sure that you were right about it. One side was going to win, no doubt about it, and then everyone just ended up tanking. Yeah.
So, I mean, coming out of the fifth, if you land like someone like an Akers and DeAndre Swift, you're probably going to flip back to like wide receiver. I think that's another great value range where you have guys like Devontae Parker, Michael Gallup, Marquise Brown, like Tyler Boyd, Jarvis Landry. Like you're going to be able to land some of these guys. So that's where you're going to backfill in your wide receiver 3. And like, I think again, just like all those guys, like I would not be shocked if any one of them finish as like a wide receiver 1 this year. So it's just like a great spot. That's usually where I'm like coming out with another wide receiver if I don't land someone like a Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. So I don't know how you guys are approaching like that, like 7 to 8 range, but that's usually where I'm at.
I feel the same way, but I also feel like in that range is where it's the final call for tight ends. And if I miss on any of these guys and don't have a tight end to that point, I think I'm fine just streaming afterwards. So I think around Hayden Hurst, which he's going 82nd overall as a tight end 9. After that, like I don't feel like sinking draft capital into Hooper and Gesicki. Hawkinson's interesting, but he's like injured right now and he's on the Lions. Jared Cook I like as well, but I think he's getting a little bit too rich for my blood. When you can, you know, if it is one quarterback league, you can get a Matt Ryan or a Josh Allen at that point.
Just draft Chris Herndon. That's really all you need to know. Just draft Chris Herndon in the 11th round. I really think he's going to be this year's Darren Waller. Like if you think about it, the Jets have no one to throw to right now. He's going to be forced into 100, 110 targets. Like it's only
Jamison Crowder or nobody.
Jamison Crowder is a poor man's Hunter Renfrow. That's the way I look at it. Yeah. So Chris Herndon seems to be like the best value play at 11th round, but those like 7th through 10th round, I feel like those are usually mixed with about 2 to 3 wide receivers, and it's some kind of mix of like the Tyler Boyds, Deontay Johnsons, guys like that, and then sometimes I'll throw a dart at like a Zach Moss in that range, or like an Antonio Gibson if he drops to the 9th. So I think that's like really last call for any sort of viable running back play. Once you get past like the 8th round, whoever you're taking at running back is going to put you up either 0 or their starting running back needs to get hurt in order for them to do anything. So it's like if you don't have your running backs by then, you're kind of fucked. So make sure you have them. There's still so much value at the wide receiver position. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. The one guy I have been pulling trigger on is TJ Hawkinson, and in the middle of the like 10th or 11th round in Superflex drafts. He'll be in the 9th round in your traditional drafts. But if you're worried about the injuries, which is totally understandable, like Nick said, you can kind of just wait a couple more rounds. I wouldn't like pick up like a Jared Cook or a Mike Gesicki. Fucking stinks. Or like even a Noah Fant. I don't think he gets enough volume, but yeah, you can get those later round guys. You guys mentioned Chris Herndon. You know, I think he's like a good volume play. Someone that's going way later who I'm like kind of interested in though is Irv Smith, and he's going like way late. Where like if you have, I don't recommend like drafting 2 tight ends most of the time, but if you play in a deeper league, like my leagues are usually like 18 to 20 man rosters, that's when I'll like consider taking 2 shots on like some of those late round darts. And Irv Smith is just like a tight end too at that target, way late into like the mid. I think it's like the 14th, 15th round.
I was getting nervous that you were going to say you're taking a shot on Jimmy Graham because he's going super late. And I don't think he's like still in the NFL anymore. I think he's on the Bears. But yeah, I also like Eric Ebron. He's going pretty late too. I know he's kind of a fraud and he can't really catch
You
footballs
like
all that
Ebron,
well. But
dude. Snacks likes Ebron too, and I can't figure out why you guys like
I don't
him.
like Ebron now.
Yeah, I was gonna say I figured that would push pretty much all the audience off of him as well.
I mean, I think people are like Ebron because he's really cheap and he's shown that he's like been that red zone presence. And honestly, once you get out of the top tight ends, like you want guys that can score a lot of TDs. And traditionally though, like Pittsburgh and Ben hasn't relied on their tight ends too much, but honestly, like they are kind of lacking a little bit of that red zone weapon. So I think that's part of the reason that drives it because like Juju's not a big red zone threat. Deontay Johnson's not a big red zone threat. Chase Claypool, people wish that he is a red zone threat. Maybe he is. I don't know. I don't think he's that good. So he kind of stinks. But yeah, I think Ebron kind of fills that red zone threat for them. So that's why people like him.
I think Ebron makes sense. I think he would make sense if it wasn't Vance McDonald's season. I think we've come full circle. I'm going back
like very quietly, like 40 years old, and has never had a season over like 200 yards.
It's always Vance season.
That fucking 40 though, that 40-yard dash time.
It's all because he put like Chris Conte into like the underworld on that one stiff arm, and
that was like literally. That was like 65% of his fantasy production on one play for the entirety of the fucking year. It was beautiful. Yeah, but tight ends, I'm very much like the one draft I got Kelsey in because he fell to me at the 3-1. That's the only time you're going to see me grabbing the tight ends early. Otherwise, I'm doing a very similar approach to Mike, where I would typically grab a Chris Herndon, Jonnu Smith, like one of those 10th round guys, pair him up right again with another like 10th, 11th kind of high upside guys. Because by that point in the draft, like we said, we're hammering running backs, we're hammering wide receivers, probably got 1 or 2 quarterbacks, and that's where it's like plush to grab tight end. So I think like as an overall strategy, like we kind of laid it out for you what we're doing position by position. Are there any other like tips at the end of your draft? Is there like something that you target at? Yeah, you do at the like 10th to 15th round or whatever.
Yeah, so I mean this year in particular, like I think handcuffs are like kind of interesting just because of COVID. But like I don't go and blow like 2-3 picks on handcuffs. Like that's not really a good use of your time. I usually just pick like 1 or 2, and I'll and you guys would have already heard me talk about handcuffing on Market Watch Mondays. But I think that's an interesting thing. And one of the things is like Jerick McKinnon. I think Jerick McKinnon is someone I've been leaving like pretty much every draft with, and he's someone that you can get in the double-digit rounds. Mainly because he's like the only one that can catch passes on the San Francisco team. And I know people like are scared of the committee there, but like the fact remains like they just run a shitload. So like even if you're part of a committee, you can get enough touches to be kind of viable. And he's cheap enough where like that's like a backfield that's murky enough where you have no idea who's going to be the running back one by the end of the year. All I know is that it won't be Tevin Coleman. So like it's a good bet to make on someone like Jerick McKinnon, in my opinion.
I think going off that handcuff thing, I want to say to the people out there that play in a league with like kickers and defenses and shit, I would not occupy those spots until the very last moment that you have to. And that's like a normal thing, but especially this year, because we're going to have COVID tests every single day and you never know who's going to pop up positive on them. So if you're like in the last round and it's like choosing between squeezing your kicker hole and your defensive spot in your lineup, or like a Tony Pollard or a Alexander Madison, or even like a Boston Scott, I would take the running back because you actually never know what's going to happen with the COVID testing. And then like the last day where it's that Sunday morning where the waivers run, just put in a couple waivers for multiple kickers to make sure that you have one. But till the very last minute, make sure that you occupy any high upside handcuff running backs.
Yeah, my only tip, I guess we'll leave on this note, is if you want this year's Jalen Samuels, somebody that has tight end eligibility, I think we all know who the best late round pick is. Somebody who can play quarterback and tight end and has very similar hair to what I got in the top of my head right now.
Spices and herbs, baby. Spices and herbs.
Yeah. One more thing you actually reminded me on defense, and I saw you tweet about this, and like it's something that I caught on like a little bit early on when I was doing FFPC best balls because you have to draft defenses there. But I left every single draft with Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Kansas City Chiefs is going to be the best defense to own this year because one, they're hella cheap and like everyone thinks of the Chiefs and they think they suck. But like the reality is their pass D was like changed like completely when they added Honey Badger. And basically like what you need from defense is this: play a bad quarterback. Like, so you look at their schedule, and they play Deshaun Watson to start, and they play Lamar Jackson week 3. But after that, look at this. They face the Chargers. So you got tight end 1, Justin Herbert, or Ty God, whichever one it is. You got a Cam Newton. We don't know if he's healthy or not, but they're playing at home, right? You have Derek Carr. You have Josh Allen. You have Drew Lock. You have Sam Darnold. You have Teddy Bridgewater. You have Derek Carr again. You have Tom Brady behind Bucs O-line. Like, we don't know how good they are. We have Drew Lock again. And then you have whoever between Tua and Fitzmagic. Like, that entire stretch, you don't have to change your defense or stream again. And I think they're just like, they're so fucking good. Even against Deshaun Watson, he'll still be fine because they'll sack him a ton. And the Chiefs blitz like crazy. Like, they run like cover 0 and just blitz the shit out of you like crazy. And what happens is their offense puts up so many points, it forces the other team into like very predictable passing tempo. And what happens is like they just Spags, whatever the fuck his name is, all he does is blitz. You just watch their game, like all they do is like all out blitz, and that's perfect recipe for defensive scoring in your traditional league. So you gotta get them. I think like I picked the Patriots last year. This is the Patriots. Might not be like that OP of scoring, but this is like my Patriots pick of like 2020.
Yeah, simply put, it's like Patrick Mahomes is going to make every other team pass the ball a fuck ton. Like you said, their defense is going to know that. Anytime the other team passes the ball a lot, it means sacks, it means strip sacks, it means forced fumbles, it means interceptions, it means pick sixes, it means 6 fucking points for your fantasy defense, and it means a dub. So Chiefs defense, second to last round of every draft. Mark it down.
We're going to target some kickers because I know one that's really good.
I don't know any. I love your kicker, though. Your kicker is my favorite kicker in the
Michael
league.
Badgley.
Yeah, the Badger.
Sexiest kicker in the league, no doubt.
The real honey badger. Love that motherfucker. Gary V client. Kid's a beast. He's probably like the only bright spot of your team's future.
Yeah.
All right.
Derwin James done. You don't have a quarterback. Like, Jesus Christ. You guys are in shambles over there.
I was like looking forward to watching this team's defense, and then Derwin James is hurt. Melvin Ingram's like holding out but not holding out. Joey Bosa's like whatever. Like,
who's the cornerback that you guys had that was like Jason Verrett? He didn't get hurt yet?
I mean, he hasn't been on the team in like 3 years, but
I know, but I figured they would just report like Chargers cornerback Jason Verrett towards
he left his injury woes like back with the team. I can't wait for like Casey Hayward or Desmond King.
He's a real one. He wouldn't leave his boys behind.
Yeah, them Jacksonville's are gonna have fucking jacked up ACLs.
Yeah.
All right, that's all we got for this episode. Shut your mouth, Mike. For this episode of Bunkbed Breakdowns, make sure you're subscribed to their channel. Make sure you go shave your fucking nuts because I know how nasty a bunch of you guys are. Manscaped.com. Promo code BDGE. 20%. I'm looking at both of you and the audience, and fucking I'm coming for everybody's head right now and for the season. BDGE, 20% off, free shipping. Like this shit, subscribe to this shit, fucking talk shit about us in the comment section. I'm out. We're out. Peace.
I feel like we talked about nothing and we talked about so much at the same time.
I think we talked about a lot, not anything productive.